The reason being is because they had a lingering war.
It is anti-Christ. Communism.
Go on. I want to hear this. Why did all of these people die in forced collectivization?
They were trying their hardest to catch up with all the military warfare that was going on post-war, and they were trying their hardest to revolutionize Russia so that they wouldn't have to deal with the suffering that they did before that.
This is absolute crap.
Content over everything.
They destroyed the farms before that were run by, well, it was rich farmers. It was big farms in Russia, and they were able to actually provide food for the whole population. The government got rid of that. They collectivized the agriculture industry, and everyone starved. The farms became massively unproductive. And also, a lot of the people who were working on these farms were unable to take, it was, you know, like if you took a turnip or something like that, you would be sent to a gulag, and so people who were sent there, they died either on the way to the gulags or once they got there in the horrific conditions that were there in the gulags. But what we're seeing now in the UK is the same thing. In 2019, we are seeing exactly the same crap now that we saw in Russia under Stalin and in China under Mao Zedong. And, you know, unfortunately, the new movement is called globalism.
But of course, capitalism has no casualties. It's a rich one.
Capitalism. It's been a movement that has helped millions of people around the world get themselves out of poverty. It's, I'd say it's economically, it's the main driver of human civilization. Absolutely.
No civilization.
Oh, sorry, there was no civilization, exactly.
There was what?
No civilizations existed for capitalism.
Where do you think civilization got their civilization from?
Well, initially we were a hunter-gatherer species, and then we had we became sedentary following the agricultural revolution, where we developed the first industry of farming, and then we created all of the other industries from there, and that's when the capitalist system, that's when it came into existence, generally after we became a sedentary species. Before that, there were too few of us, and we were quite widely spread across the globe.
So what historical source?
What? Seriously?
Historical source?
What, before we became sedentary, we were hunter-gatherer species.
Right.
I mean, if you look at any kind of anthropological research, that's what you'll see.
How do they indicate that?
Well, they look at the fossil records.
And how do the fossils indicate that?
Well, people look at various fossils around the globe.
You don't know how it's done, do you?
Well, I'm not an archaeologist, but
So
people look at the fossil records.
So you just throw out terms and hope that people
No, they make. Well, I mean, some of it is guesswork, but then they actually state what they know.
According to yourself, what is the earliest civilization?
Well, so basically from the agricultural revolution onwards, and then, you know, the first empire would probably be the Empire of Sumner, with you know, the first emperor being Sargon of Akkad. That's what we actually have in terms of recorded information from the past.
We have recorded information. Adam and Eve.
What do you know that's different to that?
6,000 years ago. It's recorded in the inspired word of God, the Bible.
I respect his point more than I do yours.
Well, look, the Bible was around,
That's Adam and Eve.
what, 2,500 years ago, the Old Testament was written. So what I'm stating predates the Bible by quite a long way. What I'm stating predates the Bible by quite a long way.
There's a few civilizations that do that. Go on.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, it's from about 5,000 years ago that we actually have the first stories, you know, being told, and the first major civilizations we see developing.
Why did it take so long for this information to be revealed 5,000 or 6,000 years ago? Why wasn't it revealed 300,000 years ago? Because no man existed then.
Because we had the dawning of human consciousness about 70,000 years ago.
Human records are only 5,000 or 6,000 100,000 years old.
records are hundreds of thousands of years old.
That is when
More
God
than that,
created
The
man.
oldest recorded human is 125,000 years old.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
nonsense.
Like,
I don't know where
No,
you
it's
guys get
true.
there's actually a museum
And we
just
have
down
the
there.
dawning of human consciousness
Where you can
around
see
70,000 years
The
ago.
oldest human hunting
Speculation,
tool
not
is
science.
200,000 years old.
The oldest what,
The
sorry?
oldest human
Opinion, not
hunting
science.
tool, the oldest artifact known to man is 200,000 years old.
No,
Where
be
are you
older
getting
than that.
5,000 from?
It's older than that.
He's getting it from
No, Homo habilis, they date back to 2.1 million years ago, and they had hunting tools. And also, some monkeys have hunting tools as well. Other primates use tools to hunt. Also, Homo habilis date back to 2.1 million years ago, and they had various stone tools to hunt.
I haven't seen a monkey build houses of parliament yet. I haven't seen that.
Yes, various primates use tools. I believe it's often wooden tools,
The main point
sometimes
is that there
stone
are
tools
more
as
than
well.
enough artifacts to prove that the
According
world
to the
is-
theory of
or the
evolution,
human
we
world
are all
is older than
educated
5,000 years. So where are you
Well,
getting
this
that?
is this is recorded history.
Nonsense.
This is recorded history.
Selective history. Get
It's
your
not
terminology right,
selective
that's
history.
This whole talk has
Recorded
been about
history.
selective history.
Recorded
No,
history.
what I'm saying is recorded history. That's actual civilizations. That's actual stories being told.
For today's society, what's
Yeah.
This
Well, I
proving-
mean,
you've
what I'm
completely
seeing
disproving
now
your credentials, so
across
what's
the
your
Western world
Okay.
is the destruction of Western civilization is
Western
being
civilization?
promoted by the globalists, and they are promoting this society that basically has no identity,
An
that has no
anti-Christ
culture.
society. They're developing an
multiculturalism
anti-Christ
works.
society.
I mean, yeah, in terms of the United Kingdom, our culture is a Christian culture. Our primordial story is the story of King Arthur, and you know our history. It's the history of Shakespeare. It's the history of Isaac Newton. It's the history of Alfred the Great. That is the history of this land. And that's, you know, the United Kingdom, that's its culture. I promote that. And I think it's a fantastic culture. And what I absolutely despise is this idea that you can bring over other cultures that are, in many cases, a hell of a lot worse than the Western civilization, the Western culture that we created in the UK. Sorry? When did I do this?
Hello, Africa.
Wait,
Yo, what's up?
wait, are you now?
I just said from slavery. There's a reason I'm here.
Give me 2 seconds.
Oh, come off it. I mean, if you're talking about slavery, we enslaved our own population here. The Africans enslaved their own people over there. In Europe, they enslaved their own people there. Everywhere in the world,
Actually, free labour was
enslaved
an
their own
innovation in
people,
Europe.
and they
I don't
also
really know where you're
enslaved
getting
other
slavery in Africa
people.
from.
No, the British Empire did more than any other institution to end slavery. And we ended slavery by promoting capitalism across the world and by promoting the scientific enlightenment. Because we built a world that was where there was automation and where there was the productive gains of capitalism, and that meant we had an economy that didn't need slaves. And that's how we were able to end slaves.
This country
So
was built by
here's the fact. Here's the fact.
This
If you-
empire was built by slaves.
Well,
The Irish and
it's a load of rubbish. It was built by capitalism, and it was built by the Enlightenment.
by Irish.
And here's the fact. If you get rid of capitalism now, and if you get rid of the Enlightenment, and the left wing are trying to do all of that, if you get rid of that, then we will have slavery again. And that is that's a clear factor. That's what will happen if we get rid of the gains of this new society we created, you know, that the British Empire helped bring to the rest of the world this capitalist society and this enlightenment society. If we get rid of that, we will go back to slave society.
How did all of these savages survive so long without you guys?
Hey?
How did all
Well,
these
they had
savages survive
slavery,
so
that's
long?
how. And so did we.
Say that again?
They had slavery and so did we.
But that doesn't explain how they survived so
And we
long
got
without
rid of it
Western
through
culture.
capitalism
The question is,
and
you
through
said
the
that-
Enlightenment.
you said that
That's
with
how you
Western
get rid of
culture, you brought
slavery.
all of this
You have
enlightenment
capitalism
and all of this
and you have the
newfound technology
Enlightenment.
to all of these savage countries.
as far
so
as
I
I'm
want to know, how did they survive before you beautiful
Well,
guys
they had
came along?
slavery,
They
that's
gave
how.
us the technology and the knowledge.
And
to just-
enlightenment.
The enlightenment.
Yeah.
How the other cultures survived
I don't think he's
before
ready
the
for I don't think he's ready for
enlightenment.
that one.
Well, generally they had slavery.
As far as
That's how they
mathematics is
survived.
concerned,
I mean, it was an important component
So slavery-
of societies, older societies. Certainly, if you look at ancient Greece,
Okay,
it
do you
was a
know
major
English
factor
people
there.
in
Here in the
1812
UK, we had the
they
feudal
used to auction their
system,
own wives.
which was a slave system. Right across Europe,
In
we had
London.
the feudal system,
And he's talking
which was
about
a slave
other
system.
people
I don't
Go
really
back
think you
to
know what slavery
African
means,
societies.
bro.
They were enslaving their
really
own
don't
people.
think you know what slavery
They had
means, bro.
slavery. Every society in the world enslaved their own people in the past.
Isn't it not the capitalist system that is currently enslaving more people around the world? It's all our iPhones, all the things we need that is
Right.
currently making everyone in Africa, all through Asia, they are mining all our materials we need for our capitalist system.
Yeah.
And you are saying it's the capitalist system taking away slavery. It is encouraging slavery. It's making slavery increase
Correct.
on a rapid
I agree with you.
Like you've
No,
never
I
seen
mean it's
Yes,
like
yes,
generally
no,
capitalism
yes.
is helping people around the world
is we earn money to give it back to
improve
the
their
government.
station in life, to get out of poverty. It improves the economy.
We have
and various
food banks in
countries
this
everywhere
country.
do better.
Hey, you know the battery in your camera there is created through lithium, which is mined in the African mines.
Right.
So certain companies go over to
So,
these countries and
so
take
people
certain
in
things.
Africa get a job mining the
No,
lithium.
people
Other people
in
get
Africa
a job
get exploited
building the
by
battery,
capitalism.
and I
Get a
get the
job.
benefit
They don't get a
of
job.
having
They get
a
looted.
battery in my camera, which means my camera works. So everyone gains.
Would you
No
call it
one
job?
gains.
Everyone gains.
You
from
know what you
capitalism.
gain? You gain, and the guy that serves you that
What do
camera
you call a
gains.
job? What do you call a job?
2 pence a
A
day?
job is where you create value by providing a service
But you
or
were just
by
calling African
creating
servitude
goods.
a moment ago slavery. You were just calling African servitude a moment ago slavery. Now you're calling it a job because the Western society gives it.
Well, I mean, generally, you choose to have a job. You kind of need to get one because
When he goes, he's an
okay. I mean,
expat.
let's get back to
When we come,
basics
we're a
here.
migrant.
You
Back
can't
to-
just sit
we've
on
been
your
on
ass
basics this whole
for your
time.
entire life, can you?
can't
can't just sit on your ass for your entire life
You can if you
and
do.
expect other people to bring you food. You need to actually go out into the chaos of nature and to create value. And by doing that, you will then, get value for yourself.
Yeah, give them
And
5p a
that
day.
means that you get money in today's
yeah.
economy,
2p a
and that
day.
means
Give
that
them a
you
job,
can go around and
5p
live
a day.
your life as you
That's how
want
it
it.
is.
So that is a job, and maybe it is servitude, but
Okay, Wicked.
it's
How
so
does
what?
that
I mean,
equate-
it is different
what?
from
How
slavery,
does that
because
equate to
slavery is the
How
idea
does that
that you
equate to
need
free
to do a
labour?
job. And
Oh, mate, you know
you're
what?
told
You know what?
what
It's
you
all
do,
right that he gets
and you
nothing,
have no
so what?
freedom in terms of what job you do. You're just told, and you're
Let me
also
show you
not
the
paid
Let me show
you
you
can't
the
negotiate your
Let's
job.
talk about
You
today.
have to do what other people tell you. That's the slavery system, isn't it?
Let's talk about today.
Yes, there is a difference between having a job and being a slave.
Okay, so what
I
is
can't
the
believe
difference?
I need to
Why are
explain
we
this.
equating?
Well,
But
you don't even
apparently
understand
Why are
the
we
concept, mate. You don't even
don't get
understand
the
concept,
idea
mate.
that there's a difference between having a job and being a slave.
Well, yeah, but you don't understand
To
that.
you, to be fair.
Hey?
You're just saying that, oh yeah, no matter what happens, as long as someone has a job, that they have a job, and that regardless of that, it's just a job. Well, I'll tell you what, 5p a day isn't a job, man. That's basically slavery. That is getting nothing.
If there's no social mobility, slavery can flourish.
People have no other job to go to because people take
a monopoly. And what we're talking about is that and it's run by giant companies. And to say that it's actually, you know, what we're talking about. Sorry, I keep getting away.
Just to say, in terms of fair trade initiatives, yes, I believe fair trade is a good idea. I believe one of the major impediments to fair trade is control of the monetary system by central bankers.
Sir, you're so generous.
Hey?
You're so generous.
Would you agree that one of the impediments to fair trade is control of the monetary system by central bankers? And also, yes, there is the issue of imperialism. Imperialism is a big government movement. You get imperialism by the government taking lots of tax money from the people, stealing it, so they can build a big military which they use to screw people in other countries over. And we saw this with the creation of the central bank here in the UK, 1692, the Bank of England. This institution was created by the government so they could take money off the people. Initially they were taking taxes off the people, but the people would have revolted because they didn't want this tax money to be taken off them, so the government created a central bank. They did the whole thing so they could screw the people over, so they could create an imperialist system. So we see it's the left wing who are the main proponents of imperialism. They are also the main proponents of the police state. You know, whenever there's suppression of freedom of speech, whenever there's suppression of the local people, it's always done by the government when they try to control free speech.
No, I've got a friend who goes saying, actually I do have children, but we're in Ireland.
So you know, they're in high school and then primary school?
They're in college.
Oh, okay.
So, and then
this sounds a bit different for college, but I mean, in
school.
I
can tell you how much private school costs
primary
in the
school
UK.
costs about 4,300 per student per year, and high school costs about 6,300 per year.
Yeah, £9 a year.
And I don't think that the education.
So you want to privatise the education?
Minimum £9 a year is the lowest private school fees. And how would they pay for it?
Out of tax cuts. You cut that out of the tax. So you get 6,300
the lowest, so private, not public.
Yeah, they should.
So you should take it. So you should take it out of people's tax in order to put it back into education.
You should take it out in the first place. Don't take the tax. Give them back the tax.
So what you're suggesting is we privatise the education system in order to create a better system of education as it stands. But in order to do that, we get the money from that out of people's tax. Is that what you're saying? What are you saying? So how are we going to pay for this private?
Don't tax them for education.
So how are you going to educate the country?
What do you mean?
How are people in the country going to get educated?
Someone opens up a school and they start teaching people.
So if people don't have this money, how are they going to pay for that?
Who opens up the school? You said someone opens up the school. Who?
The free market economy. Anyone who wants to start up a school. If you think you can start a school,
you need money to open up.
You need money to open up.
Oh, really? So there you go, right?
You need money to open up.
There's so many issues with just opening up private schools. There's so many issues.
Yeah, again, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that.
Who's going to pay the teachers? Who's going to like
invest in curriculum? Like who defines?
But like you understand that that there's quite a few bad teachers. I'm sure you're aware of there are quite a few bad teachers, right? But we can't fire those teachers. So our students, our young people,
we can. That's why we have inspections.
And year upon year, we're becoming more and more accountable.
So how are we going to pay for all these schools? How are people going to pay for
them? I work in school, you refire teachers.
Yeah, but how are you going to? You have no money. How are you going to pay for this?
All sorts of shit.
You can have negative tax rates. So if you're under a certain income bracket, that the government subsidises your school fees.
So it's not really a private system, is it?
Because the government
I think there should be a negative tax rate for certain people over there. So if you're under, I don't know what the number is exactly. You can call it 25,000 or 30,000. If you're under a certain limit per child, you should have a negative tax rate to account for that. But then if you're over the income threshold, then you should pay for your education. I think if you're paying for it, like you as a consumer, you're far more effective at deploying that capital than the government is. So I think that if you educate your children, you'll look at say schools in different parts of the country. This one gets high grades, this one gets pretty average grades, this one gets awful grades. grades, you're using your kids to and it gets the best grades. But that's because the free market system is far more effective at deploying capital than the government. So that's why I think that, it'd be fine.
So let's take, for example, just as an example case, a family that makes up £40,000 a year, so above your threshold, which you're saying in terms of negative tax. They have 5 or 6 kids, right? So they can only afford to send maybe 2 or 3 of their kids to school because they are above that negative. They're above that negative threshold.
Well, I mean, I think
they can only send 2 of their kids to school.
Yeah, no. So why a little tweak on that. I mean, if you let me respond, is that I would think that with regard to the tax rate, the legislation. I'm not here to necessarily prescribe that. I just think the idea is I'm just trying to advance the idea of privatised schools. But I think in terms of legislation, the legislation obviously has to be per child because it wouldn't work as having a fundamental overall income.
So legislation would have to be per child, yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone gets sent to school. Is basically what you're saying.
If you're under a certain income threshold, yeah.
If you're under a certain income threshold, so it's still not a privatised system then.
How do you mean?
We're still not a privatised system, is it?
Not completely privatised. It's kind of a dual system, but I think fundamentally it's a far more effective system that we have now. Like the actual school itself operates as private enterprises, but the method of paying changes depending on where you sit.
But you also believe that we should destroy the welfare state?
More or less, I want to get rid of it. Yeah.
So by having this negative tax,
but we're only talking about schools now. The welfare state's like a bigger issue, but I think fundamentally schools is a good case study. I think we can look at academies now. They're already outperforming other state schools, and some definitely. There's some doing better, some doing worse. But I think overall we can widely agree that the private or the academy style of schools is doing far more effectively than
it's doing better than people thought it would do.
Yeah, no, it's doing better. So we can already see that these kind of giving the free market more power over our education system seems to have quite good effects. Would you not deny that?
Don't deny, but I believe that actually making everyone pay for schools quite a contentious and very complicated issue.
I do, but I think that it comes down to the fundamental point is kind of what do you call it? Psychologically, it's a little bit different, right? Like now it's free, you know what I mean? It's effectively free to send the kids out the door and they go, right? Whereas having to pay for it is like kind of has a psychological impact, even if you're getting a tax rebate, you know what I mean? Like I understand that, but I think the amount of education that your children will get for £6,300 a year is absolutely atrocious compared to what I think the free market economy, what free market kids do. Kids don't have adequate teachers, they have adequate equipment, and I think that just saying let the government deal with it isn't effective.
But you're proposing to just take away one system and replace it with one very similar.
What do you mean?
Well, the way that you've set out your notion of an educational system is very similar to how the current education system is set out today. We pay indirectly for people to go to school through our taxes.
We do.
And this new system you're saying is that we pay for people to go through school, but then we get a tax rebate. So we're still paying for people to go to school.
Oh, hello.
Policemen around.
Debt obligations that led to the subprime failure, and so I guess it was the all of the mercantile
Content over everything from your government.
Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Listen.